Tuolla Lontoossa Jennin mä kohtasin. Halo Vepi, oho. Hän on neidosten joukossa kaunihin. Halo Vepi, oho.
Well, welcome to another episode of the Gloucester Bookies about books, writing books, reading books,
researching books,
researching books, throwing books away when we can, giving books away.
Oh, yes, you want to recycle books.
Recycling books.
That's right.
And all that stuff. And today we kind of loosely gathered around a theme of books about the ancient civilizations, where it's some touching on lost cities or ancient civilizations or recently discovered archaeological matters. And we'll still have Frugal Finn.
For those who might be tempted to get up and go, there will be there will be tips from the Frugal Finn.
All right.
And I must say, I was just telling Wayne, I'm running out of tips. It seems as if, you think you have a good tip, and then you go on the internet and you see someone else has kind of repurposed it, stealing my tips, and they're making it their own.
They're hacking your tips.
They're hacking my tips. That's right. Those are hacking my hacks. That's what they call them now, hacks.
Is that one of these
Hacking my hacks.
things that when you say it out loud in your house, it's picked up by some mysterious microphone and somebody hears it and deals with it?
Or maybe somebody's
That happens now?
or maybe it's
night.
surveillance. Maybe we're being watched all the time.
Right.
Well, I won't promote that.
We are being watched all the time.
Oh,
we
Ready-
are.
Ready.
Well, all I can say is I have to be really careful not to say anything that sounds either like Google or Alexa. Near that little round thing.
That's
Yes,
right.
yes.
It can
That's right.
interrupt a separate conversation.
Hey, look,
I'm sorry,
before
I don't understand what you just said.
I
Okay.
turn it over to Susanna, I'd like to say...
You'd like to introduce us?
Well, let me introduce you. People are there seeing you for
But
the
this might be the very first one that
17th
they're ever seeing.
Might be the first time.
Normally, you introduce us. You tell who we are. And
Sure. Sharon Love Cook, and on my left, Susanna Natty, and in the middle is me, Wayne Soiney. Yes,
the name of the show is Gloucester Bookies.
That's it. I wonder if people out there realize they can send in book recommendations, because I recently received a book recommendation from a fellow neighbor of ours who will be nameless, because although I put in there you can appear anonymously, or you can I will say your name on the air. This person didn't specify that their name could be used on the air, so I'd rather not do that.
Maybe you can describe him. We'll try to guess who he is.
We could put a picture, but this is
doesn't want to know.
This is an email from your friend and neighbor who describes the following recommendations for books.
Okay.
The entire Master and Commander series, which are 20 books by Patrick O'Brien, and they have an ocean theme and the Navy and the British. Riveting. From this person who's reading it says these are riveting from start to finish. And I recall several of the books. I didn't read all 20, but I recall several of the books. I would agree. They keep you, the pages turning. This fellow, though, has a man or woman. On my third time through.
Whoa.
He's read it.
Wow.
Right? He's read it, all 20, and he's reread it, and now he's in the third time through. So he's recommending it, obviously, heartily.
Or either he's got a bad memory. And he's
you could keep. I had a neighbor like that kept rediscovering this.
Yes.
Anyway, the other.
Excuse me, Wayne, but doesn't that sound like a video game? What is it called? Raiders of
the newly discovered discoveries.
Doesn't that sound like a video game? It sounds like that's a book. It's
Master and Commander.
Oh, Master and Commander.
Yes. It's a series.
It sounds like those years ago little boys' books. You know, the boys
Oh,
would
yeah.
Yeah.
Master of my fate or whatever.
Or Little Lord Fauntleroy.
Oh, now that really is.
Was that a
good.
series?
No.
That goes way back.
I was thinking Little Master Fauntleroy, and then I had to stop myself and say, no,
that's
it's
right.
Little Lord Fauntleroy. Okay, let's get down to brass tacks. We're just killing people
We
here.
got
Okay.
other
the
recommendations.
1800s,
The woman or gentleman said the title is Stamford 76. It's by Joanne Hart.
Oh, she's here.
There,
I
there's
know
some
her.
recognition right here.
We both went
Because
to Bennington.
it's
She was a couple of years, maybe a year after me, so I
And-
never
and
got to know
she
her.
is
and this is
Renowned
described.
and local.
Yes.
And
This
wow.
is this is described as
Yeah.
a nonfiction murder mystery
yes.
by a Gloucester resident. So that's what you're saying, and there's a recognition
Yes,
right here.
yes.
So you'd join in that recommendation
Yes.
transparently.
She's
Then
awfully good.
The next book he recommends is I remember reading it. It's called The Adventures of Cavalier and Clay by Michael Chabon. You'd read it because you're an illustrator.
I've read
in
that, and I've read the
You relate to it.
wonderful work by Joanne Hart too.
As you are artistic also and draw and
Yes.
do the cartoons.
Yes.
If you haven't read it,
You mean,
Did
is
you
it a
read-
King Charles Cavalier Spaniel?
no.
Is that what it
This
is?
is breathtaking writing and a really fun background story involving the formation of the comic book industry.
Oh,
See? So yeah,
wow.
all right.
And-
Main characters are modeled on Stan Lee, who was the founder of Marvel
Yes,
Comics.
that's what I was gonna
and
say,
it has
it's
a
the Marvel comics.
great plot too. This is a
Yes.
recommendation I think's very directed right
yes,
to you.
that's right. Well,
all right. And
I'll
lastly,
write that down, Wayne.
he or she recommends the March of Folly by Barbara Tuchman,
Yeah.
which
Oh,
is
yes.
history made unbelievably digestible by the author of The Guns of August.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody out there who is at all interested in history, written in a readable way, reader-friendly way, wants to read any book by Barbara Tuchman. So
Those
if
are
you
great
score
recommendations.
recommendation,
She
that's
wrote
right.
about the
That's
plague,
5-star
that it
recommend.
was,
The recommendations
it
are
was
5-star.
terrifying about
Thank
the
you
Black
for
Plague.
that.
Yeah.
And I now turn over the floor to Susanna Nettie, please,
Susanna Nettie.
all the way from Lanesville.
This is, I think, this is the first Gloucester Bookies session I've been at where we actually thought about a theme, kind of roughly. And it all
Yes.
came about because Wayne offered up an essay that we might discuss, and we decided to stay book-centric. But there was this nugget in there having to do with, if I recall, Wayne, about what if you could create your own civilization, what would you?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I
oh
must
yeah.
have missed that
Oh,
one.
yeah.
I don't think I was
Yeah.
included in
Yeah.
that email.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So that got me thinking about a book that I read a little while ago, which I thought actually somebody else might be discussing today, so I'm not going to go into it in too much detail, but it is an absolutely fantastic nonfiction read called The Lost City of Z by David Gran. He was a writer for The New Yorker and got fascinated by this tale of one of the last great British explorers of the 19th century. I mean, the 19th century and the early 1900s were such a period of especially the people who had money and didn't have to earn their own living, going out and exploring the far reaches of the earth. So Percy Fawcett was this British explorer, and he took his son on an expedition into the Amazon in search of this mythical, as it turns out not so mythical, lost city. But he disappeared. Percy Fawcett and his son disappeared. So there's
Disappeared.
three layers to this story.
So this was the early 1900s?
I think around 1920-ish, maybe.
Yes.
I'm looking here. It was 1925.
Okay.
And so this wonderful book, The Lost City of Z, which later was made into a movie, you may have seen that, was, you could look at it in three different ways, three different sort of adventures and mysteries. the first one that frames the whole thing is David Grand, the journalist, going in search of the last journey of Percy Fawcett and his son, and looking into the available documents and going to the last place he was and interviewing people. And I mean, it was a grueling trek.
Oh, and how old was the son? He wasn't. I hope he wasn't a kid.
I think he was maybe a teenager.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure.
It's hard.
At any rate, he does develop a theory, David Grand does, about the ultimate fate of Percy Fawcett and why it was that he never came out of the jungle again. And since I'm going to try to be aware of spoiler alerts, I'm not going to tell you what happened to Percy Fawcett. But it turns out that...
Cannibals.
Yeah, might have been.
Oh.
I will say no more. But there actually was a lost city back there, and I didn't expect that. That was so there was the David Grand search. That's story number one. There's the story of Percy Fawcett and his son, and then there's at the bottom of all of this, there is this lost city. So a few years after David Grand had gone into the Amazon looking for him, there started to be this capacity of being able to basically X-ray through the jungle to
the airplanes were flying overhead, and they'd send the radars down.
Right, things bounce back, and they can make images, and they were able to ascertain that there actually had been a big city there with moats and concentric circles and other structures, certainly showing that there had been a thriving population there. So when I'd been sort of inspired by Wayne's essay idea, I immediately thought of the Lost City of Z. I thought, ooh, lost civilizations. And it turns out that's a whole big rabbit hole. Wow, there's a lot out there. So I went looking on the internet and then found there was a title called The Lost City of the Monkey God.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Yes, that was also, I think, made into it might have been made into a movie as well.
Yeah.
So I trotted down to the Sawyer Free Library, and they actually do have the Lost City of the Monkey God. Actually, I could not get the book because it was in storage, but this is what the title looks like.
Yes.
They are still probably retrieving it in storage for me, but because we had this meeting coming up, I went to my trusty Kindle and downloaded it and read the story of the Lost City of Z.
Can I just
the Lost
say
City
this?
of the Monkey God, sorry. Too many Lost Cities.
This is a wonderful comment that you happened upon. I have inside information from a librarian at Sawyer Free Library in its new location. The open secret, which you stumbled upon in your endeavor to get to the Lost City, is that if you go to the new location on Main Street, which is necessarily smaller than the original library, the decision was made, and I think it was a wise one, that the smaller library will host the new books. You know, the newer, already existing newer, and then the totally new that are coming in.
Got it.
Yes.
So that if you go to our Sawyer Free Library, unlike probably any other library around this area, you'll find new books. New books. And then they're sometimes arranged as a shelf of this week's books or things, new arrivals and all that. And others, even if you just go to the regular shelves, you're saying, geez, this is from last year. I remember that. That was on the bestseller. You know, the whole thing is the older books are not there. They're available. They're accessible. You have to ask for them. They'll come to you. But the ones that are going to hit your eye are what everybody likes to see, which is the new books. When you go to a bookstore. So there's some reflection of our library as a kind of a new bookstore kind of thing for free books. Please go on with your...
All right. So since I couldn't get my hands on a copy of the Lost City of the Monkey God right away, I asked the friendly, helpful librarian if they could point me to the section where that book would have been housed, because I thought, well, maybe there's something else there. So there were a couple of shelves that he pointed me to, and while I was looking around, I kind of randomly picked up this book called In Whose Ruins by Alicia Puglioso. See if I did that right.
Wow.
Puglionesi. Alicia Puglionesi.
You taking Italian now or what? That's
right.
great.
I love languages. And it is fascinating. The whole title is In Whose Ruins, the subtitle, Power, Possession, and the Landscapes of American Empire. So this is kind of a different twist on, quote, lost civilizations. And I'm putting quotes around that because I'm understanding that's a fairly fraught phrase right now, because it implies a lot of a certain narrative about things, that there is that we of the dominant folk who came into this country came with our narrative. So these previous civilizations that were on the continents of North and South America had their own vibrant life, and they were never lost to those people.
Can I take a look at that?
Sure.
At some
I
point,
probably said that really
at
poorly,
some point,
but,
we will be the lost
we will be.
civilization.
Oh God,
It's
I'm
hard to
I'm-
believe, but I'm
lost
sure
a
they
lot.
couldn't believe it either.
Yes. Well, it's a fascinating read. It's a little bit on the more scholarly side, but
Yeah,
very, very
yeah.
readable. And I confess, I only got through the first section. There's 4 sections that deal with places that were built by the first people here on these 2 continents. And the first one is fascinating. It's called
A 2022 book.
a 2022 book.
So
Yes,
months ago.
case in point. It was a
Yes.
new book.
Just reach out your hand.
That's new
what
to
you-
me.
Right. So this, she talks about this series of mounds that were constructed in what is now West Virginia.
West Virginia.
West Virginia, in the Ohio River Valley. And they were clearly made to be monumental. Actually, the only one that is still existing really was only one of many. It was the mark of a large and thriving population. And then the colonial history started, and what I've discovered from all of these books is that as people came in, the most decimating thing of all were diseases. And I had no idea how extensive it was in South America and Central America. It was as high as 90% in some places.
We
the
new
explorers-
settlers were like
the settlers.
COVID. We were coming in
Oh,
with
right.
COVID, and they all
Everywhere,
Yes.
the South Pacific, you know,
Yeah.
the missionaries
Yes.
bringing
Yeah.
Same thing.
diseases.
So
Yes.
I mean, it's all very tragic and sad
Yeah.
and very complicated with a lot of different threads going on. But the main point of In Whose Ruins is that there is a great urge for the narrative to reflect that the civilized world originated in Europe. So there was this story in Whose Ruins, in this first section about the mound at Grave Creek, is replete with well-intentioned people, hucksters, swindlers, con men, people who really were a product of their times and thought they were doing the best they could. It's really a microcosm of history and American history too. So there was one of the hucksters was a guy who put in a fake artifact with sort of rune scratches on it. So because the town was really trying to think, how can we make some money off of this monument?
There it is.
We need to get some more tourists in. Come on. And so he planted this rune-covered rock, this little sort of petroglyph kind of lettering on it, and pictograph is the word I was searching for. And this guy who discovers it claims that he knows what the answer is, and he goes off to Europe with this little stone, and all the all the researchers in Europe got really excited, and they think, oh, must be Phoenician. No, it's got to be Danish. No, so it's a claiming of this rock as evidence that the Europeans got here first. Therefore, they had every right to move into the continent. I'm way oversimplifying this, and don't fault me on my clumsy explanation, but it is fascinating and well worth the read. So that brings me to...
So did you find out who created this rune?
Yes. The guy who created the rune, I can't remember what his name was.
Okay.
But he's known.
But he was, you know, P.T. Barnum. There's a fool. What is it? It's a fool born every minute. You know, he was. I think he was in that tradition. So that I finally got to the Lost City of the Monkey God, and oh boy, first paragraph in, I was absolutely hooked. Got some similarities to Lost City of Z, because it starts with from the point of view of a journalist who working also for the New Yorker, as David Gran was for the Lost City of Z when he started that. And he is asked to go on this expedition where they're going to see if they can identify the White City. There was this myth and legend about the White City in this inaccessible place in Honduras. So it starts there with him going on this expedition to see if they can actually find the city. There had been explorations during the 150 years previous, again with its share of hucksters, con men, and well-intentioned people. People out to make a name for themselves, including a really, really fantastic and kind of very swashbuckling character who is part of the modern history of this, who was a gun runner and dealt with drugs and looked a bit like Sidney Greenstreet, you know, smoking a big cigar and doling out all sorts of bribes. But I won't get too much into that. So I wanted to give you a flavor of how exciting this was, because they go off in this first chapter. They're being read the Riot Act by the head of the expedition for security. He and this guy Woody and two other guys are going to be in charge of everybody's safety.
Is this a novel?
No, it's nonfiction. This is for real. This is for real. So they're going into a very dangerous part of Honduras. It's very inaccessible. Not only are there drug cartels, but there are all sorts of dangerous animals, including the most venomous snake in the entire world, the fer de lance.
Oh, what is it called?
A fer de lance. It's FER-DE-LANCE.
Never heard of that. Wow.
So the author, Daniel Preston, is in the first group to go in to make camp. There's only, I think, 6 of them on that first night. And they set up their little tents.
Think of the mosquitoes and the bugs.
And the sandflies. And horrible.
Oh, my Lord.
It's terrible.
Worse than Lanesville.
Oh, way worse, way worse. Yeah.
And those horseflies, worse than the horseflies.
Okay, worse than horseflies, then you're really talking something. But, you know, but
right.
You got 2 minutes to quote.
Okay, so here's the thing. So Daniel Preston has to get up in the middle of the night to go pee, and he's a little through the jungle from where everybody else is because he wanted a little privacy. Yeah. But even 10 feet means that you are invisible from everybody else. Oh.
So why is that? Because it's so dark?
Vegetation is so thick. It's absolutely thick. So he stumbles around. He finds that he's lost, and he finally realizes he can see where the other lights are, and he starts along and realizes with his headlamp that he has walked by a fer de lance snake twice, and now the fer de lance snake is looking at him. So he says, guys, a little help here, and here's where I'll start reading. There's a giant snake here. Woody, head of the expedition, says, get back, but keep the light on it. The snake remained motionless, its gleaming eyes fixed on me. The forest had fallen silent. Woody arrived seconds later with the rest of the group in tow, their headlamp beams swinging wildly through the murk. Jesus Christ, someone said loudly. I hope I could say that. Woody said quietly, everyone stay back, but keep your torches on him. It's a fer de lance. He pulled his machete from its scabbard and with a few strokes transformed an adjacent sapling into a 7-foot snake stick, a long pole with a narrow forked end. I'm going to move him. He advanced toward the snake, and in a sudden thrusting motion, pinned its body to the ground with the forked end of the stick. The snake exploded into furious action, uncoiling, twisting, thrashing, and striking in every direction. Do I have time to read this?
Yes, go ahead.
But
I only have
Okay.
2 tips.
jump around to make it short.
Now we saw just how large it really was. Woody worked a forked stick up its body to its neck as the snake continued to whip about.
He must have been strong. What a guy! What a
Well, I
strong
mean,
guy.
he was very trained in this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Woody crouched and seized it behind the head with his right hand.
Oh, wow.
The snake's body, thick as his arm, slammed against his leg, its dazzling snow-white mouth gaping wide, unsheathing 1.25 inch long fangs
Yeah.
that pumped out streams of pale yellow liquid. As its head lashed back and forth, straining to sink its fangs into Woody's fist, it expelled poison all over the back of his hand, causing his skin to bubble. Woody wrestled the snake to the
I'll
ground.
bet he wish he'd never done this.
I know.
I wish he'd
And pinned its squirming body with
stayed
his
in
knees.
his tent.
He pulled a knife from his belt and sliced off its head.
Oh my God! Imagine filming
I know.
that.
Yes.
Imagine
Through the
filming-
whole
that way-
struggle.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He never uttered a word. The rest of us had been stunned into silence as well. He rose, rinsed his hands, and finally spoke. "I'm sorry I wasn't able to move it. I have to wash the venom off right away." Later, he said he was a bit concerned when he felt the poison running into a cut on the back of his hand. He held up the headless snake by the tail, blood still dribbling from its neck. Nobody said a word. "Nothing like this to sort of concentrate your mind, is there?" Woody said. "Female. They get bigger than the males." And he added quietly, "There's rarely just one."
Oh my!
Hey, may I
tell
say,
ya,
How could they sleep after that?
Well,
knowing
you know,
there's really
with
just
difficulty.
one?
it's a
Slither
real,
right into the tent.
It's a real introduction to a story that people would want to read. From you recognize it when you hear it.
Yes.
That wonderful writing. May I turn now?
Yes, you may.
To the frugal Finn, who is not, tips about avoiding. You can avoid the fertile ants by listening to what she suggested. Instead.
That's what I thought.
Fleur de lis instead.
What a beautiful name for a
I know. Yeah.
pretty mean snake.
I know.
Yeah, but you know, they were in the snakes. This is the snake's domain.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And the snake was minding its own business.
Right.
But
In
I
the wrong
suppose-
place, unfortunately.
Good thing they weren't Girl Scouts. Well, I
Yeah.
suppose they'd be able to take care of themselves too. Now,
What
as
have you
far
brought for us?
Well-
Besides, fleur de lis.
Yep.
Oh my goodness, it's a pair of socks.
And now for something completely different. Yes, a pair of socks, and I have the instructions here. Oh, and let me grab my glasses. I'm going to try something a little different. After people probably want to hear more about the snake, but you're going to have to hear about these socks. Now, this is something this is for lazy people. Here's a hack. This is a helpful hint hack for lazy people. And I know, in the summer, people don't really want to put on their rubber gloves and scrub. They want to do things the easy way. So I read about this. I have not tried it myself, but I do remember trying it years ago with Endust. What it is, it's called Swiffer. You make your own Swiffer socks. Okay. You know those weird chenille socks that seem to accumulate in your sock drawer? The ones you get for Christmas, even though you tell people you've got plenty of socks. We always got socks for Christmas when we were kids.
Yeah.
And my mother would wrap them individually so it looked like we got a lot,
That's a frugal Finn.
We got wise to that pretty quickly. Yes, I know. So exciting to open up one sock and know there's another one out there. Really makes you, makes you look forward to put a little
one sock.
one sock.
Not by the
Yes,
pair.
and then she did that to my brother too. And once we were fighting over it because I said that was mine, and his feet were bigger, and so we had to fight over that one. Okay, now you can do this. You can spray them with Endust or a quick spritz with a spray cleaner. Okay, so what you do is you put these on your feet. No, I would spray them first. You spray them first with a little spray cleaner. or perhaps if I don't know if they still make end dust. It was a spray that picks up dust.
Right.
Put them on the bottom. I won't do this now because it's going to take a little bit of time for me to put the socks on, and then what you do is you kind of you schlep them. All right, now just kind of schlep around your house, making big strides like this.
Oh, yeah.
With your socks, big strides. And when you've gotten enough, you're going to be surprised how much this can pick up.
Oh, I'll bet.
And you're getting a little exercise too. It's great for your joints. It's like yoga. It just sort of loosens everything up. It keeps you limber. You're going around, and then you're just going to be amazed. So you can go outside and you can do this. Or if you're like me, you've got more socks in that drawer, and you can probably go maybe 5 or 6 pair and just go through the whole house.
You could.
And then just toss them into the washing machine.
All right, that works.
This is a great idea.
Good for you.
Yeah, but now try it, really.
Yeah.
I have these socks. If you would I might even donate them
To
one of my Gloucester Bookies, if they don't have any socks at home.
Yeah.
All right, now here's another thing. All right, now
I think we know what we're getting for Christmas. Anyway, go ahead.
well, it's true. Around Christmas time, places like
Do you wrap them individually, or you just
no, I'm not that frugal. I can afford to wrap
give
them
the
both.
whole pair at once?
All at once, Man, I just don't like the suspense of
Okay.
someone saying, opening one sock and then opening another. I just like to give them
Okay.
Yeah, get it
at
all
once.
over with.
And also around Christmas time, if you're in the big stores, Walmart or Walgreens, CVS, you see these big bins, and you see socks like these all rolled up. And usually you can't buy 1 pair; you have to buy 3.
Right.
But they're so cheap. I mean, it'd be 3 for $10 or something like that. So if you wait till Christmas, you will find plenty of these.
Right.
And all right,
That could take care of 3 people in your family.
good idea. Even though I gave it to them last year too, so they probably wouldn't get too excited about it. They'll say, "Socks again." My mother used to say, "Give us socks." We'd say, "Socks again." She'd say, "Very practical, very practical." Yeah. So I always remember that. Very practical. Kids don't like practical,
No.
I know, but it's now okay. I noticed that a lot of people will use these wipes. Now these are baby wipes. If you're looking for a wipe, the makeup wipes, they're very expensive. The makeup wipes are a lot more expensive than the simple baby wipes, and they're smaller.
Isn't that
More
interesting?
expensive. They're smaller. These are big. But here's how you can get. Now this is 72 wipes. I think I got this at Stop and Shop. Stop and Shop brand. 72 wipes.
Yeah.
If you tear them in half, you will have 140 what?
Yeah,
4?
144.
144.
That's right.
They'll last forever.
Better than splitting your gum in half.
Yeah. Well, I do that too.
I know you do.
Matter of fact, I split everything in half. I remember when my kids were little, the pads you put under the crib, you put under the mattress cover.
Yeah.
Those pads, and they were huge. I would cut those in half. They're this big. Babies don't, they're not going to use that whole pad. I'd cut them in half. I still do it today, though, even though I don't have babies in the house. All right. Now, look, here's a pad here. This is very large if you're taking your makeup off.
Right.
Honestly. And now just
Hey,
split it right. Would you like
we've seen it.
Nice.
We've
Would you
seen
like
it
one?
happen.
Oh, thank you.
This is
Susie,
it.
I'll give you
Yeah.
one. You might
Yes.
you.
want to freshen up.
All right.
It smells nice.
Yeah, it
It
does
smells
smell-
like baby.
Yeah, it is.
It smells like baby.
It smells like baby diapers.
Yes. It does.
Okay, so those are a couple of tips. Just go around the house and see all the things that you can cut
I feel very
into.
refreshed.
Yes.
It is refreshing. I'll give you another one too.
By the
I-
way, do you
Oh,
know
yes.
do you know that the Finnish word for makeup is makeup?
Makey, isn't that funny?
I know, I just love that.
Makey.
I like that.
Makey.
All right.
Anyway.
So removing your
Sorry.
makey, you Finns out there, Finnish women,
Yeah.
and men perhaps, I don't want to disqualify them, removing your makeup, just tear it in half. But if you're a Finn, you probably do that already. Maybe you do it in thirds, you know?
Yes.
All
Hey,
right.
do you know the Finnish word for test strip?
No.
Testy strippy.
Oh, I love it. Testy strippy. That's
Testy strippy.
absolutely,
Testy
absolutely.
strippy.
Yep.
I've got to remember
Any modern
that
word,
one.
just add an E. I mean an I.
Good. Well,
Sorry.
you got some cartoons for us.
Okay, yeah.
These
Oh,
are homemade. These
Now
are
for-
personally by the art. Go ahead.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Yeah.
And these are, I printed these out on the computer, so they look, you know, they look a little
Professional.
Greeting Card Universe. My cards, I have a few cards on Greeting Card Universe, and the card, if you're the artist, you can get them for half price, you know. So and it's very nice. They do them up very, very nicely. Nice. They use really good stock, and they've got hundreds of artists who, you know, created these cards, and you use their template. You know, it has to be just so, and the printing. And these are a couple that I made for birthdays. Now this one, and I will scan this and show, and so the audience can see it. It said, "On your birthday, keep it simple," and it said inside. So you open it up, and it said, as you can see, the fellow's he's naked. Can we show this on this show? I don't know.
I think it works.
Yeah,
I think it works. Yeah.
this might be okay. And it said, "Wear your birthday suit."
Yes.
So that is this one. And here's another one, a birthday wish. Now, this one isn't as popular because a lot of people don't have basset hounds. Now, for years we had a basset hound, Gaylord Farquhar Cook, and he became quite famous. I don't have time to tell how he became famous, but he was in 160 newspapers. He was on TV.
Oh, good Lord.
He was quite something.
Wow.
Well, you know what it was? I will just take.
Yeah, you better.
I will just take a moment to
Yes.
tell you. Famous, and he was on. See, Associated Press picked the picture up. So he was everywhere. People, my sister-in-law in California said, "I saw him in the newspaper. I saw him on TV. They saw him everywhere." It was the greatest picture. If I had known I was going to talk about it, I would bring the picture in. But it was his 10th birthday, and I thought, okay, in people years, that's 80 in people years. And I knew that the president at the time, it was Ron Reagan, the president was sending birthday cards out to all citizens, American citizens who had turned 80. And I thought, he's not going to send Gaylord Farquhar. He doesn't even know about him. And I thought, dogs don't deserve this. You know, he's lived a long time. And I think he's a Republican too. Gaylord was a Republican. So I sent to the White House and I said, would you please say Gaylord Farquhar is turning 80. Would you please send him a birthday card? So we got this very beautiful card in the mail. It said, "Nancy and I wish you all the best wishes on your birthday." So someone at the Salem News heard about it, and they did a story. And that's how the Associated Press came to our house. And the picture is great because he's got we put a little hat on him, a little birthday hat. And here's the card from the president, and Gaylord's like this, lying down. He's looking at it like that. It was a great picture.
Wow.
And the guy from the Associated Press, he was very nice, and he said, when I heard about this assignment, I said, if it's a poodle, I don't want to come. He said, I don't want to go if it's a poodle. And he said, no, it's a basset hound. So he said, okay, I'll do it.
Oh my.
And it was, and so that year, Gaylord was in Beverly Farms Parade, our 4th of July parade. Someone did a float about him, and he was quite famous for a while. Okay.
How did he take to his fame?
Oh, really, you know, it's just the way he usually was. He was kind of indifferent. He enjoyed it. He enjoyed the attention. He enjoyed the cake. You know, he had a little cupcake.
You actually had a cake from.
Well, it was a little cupcake.
Yes.
So I will just show you quickly. This is something I made, and this said, a birthday wish.
Ah.
You see, a birthday wish. Now that's kind of faint. I will scan
Yeah.
this so the audience can see it. It's a basset hound, and there's a
Yeah.
birthday cake. It's all faded, but and it said, okay, inside it said, may a bloated basset hound create a breeze over your wedding cake.
Oh!
So people on Greeting Card Universe, if they're not basset lovers, they, it hasn't sold as well as the Naked Guide.
Hey!
But so
You got a niche there.
Very, very.
maybe
good.
it will now. Maybe it will now. Everyone will want one now.
Very.
Now they know the story behind it.
Very cute.
Thank you, Wayne.
Creative.
So
Thank you. Yeah. Back to a ruined city, old cities.
yes.
You have a chance to tell me, guess if you want, what was the first city on Earth? The first city. Thousands of people, that kind of definition. Thousands of people living together for a long time.
I have no idea.
Drake it.
No, but
Lowell.
no, and it's a place you.
Just say, what area was it in? What area?
That's the crucial question.
Yes.
And it leads us back to your Susanna's comment about the Europeans coming over and thinking they were the civilization of the world.
Yes, that's
and,
right.
And coming to the benighted and primitive people. The first city on Earth was recently really excavated and discovered, identified by time and everything like that. In Peru.
Oh,
Peru.
I thought it was here in the U.S. you were talking about.
It's in Peru, up in the Andes.
Yes.
The Andes, if you understand, this book is from the Sawyer Free Library.
Surprise.
Oh,
Cost
I know. What is
nothing. You can get it yourself.
It's
It's about
beautiful.
all kinds of It's not about only the city of Caral. The name of the city was Caral. C-A-R-A-L. Caral. Look it up in Wikipedia or YouTube. BBC has a wonderful hour-long story about Caral. But anyway, Discovery is about the discoveries that archaeologists make. And the whole book this is really like a coffee table book,
Yes.
large. You'd have to be a mighty man to lift this up. But anyway, the pictures in here, it's only 2 pages on Caral. Everything else is something else. But Caral has 2 pages, and one of those pages is this 2 pictures. And the picture above is a perfect illustration of what I mentioned, that it's up in the Andes, high, dry,
Wow.
desert,
Right.
Andes, and you'd say, what a place to put a city. And I'll explain that in a minute. And down below is when they got, they built something similar to the mounds or the pyramids, people to live in, wonderful homes for the time. Everyone else was in caves or in the woods. 5,000 years ago. 5,000 years ago. And this is an amphitheater. Hundreds, if not thousands of people would gather around the amphitheater. And in the center here, things would go on, which people have excavated and found. They had, obviously, concerts, because these are people who had no tools but their hands, sticks, and stones. Like sharpened stones and stuff. No, it was not the Iron Age. It was Stone Age man. So Stone Age people, coming out of the desert, coming out of the wandering for all their lives, wandering here and there, all their lives, coming out of the jungle, and seeing this barren, large expanse of really desert. And some one of them has 5,000 years ago, with no education, right? Some one of them thought, we just crossed over a river. What if we put a stick or a channel that started the river flowing here? And and there's another river over farther, way over there, and we do the same thing. Perhaps this whole group territory
First engineers.
could be canals
Yeah.
that lead to vegetation and farms, and we could grow stuff, including, who in the heck, 5,000 years ago, let's grow our own clothes. Let's grow cotton. People had
And
to
they
think of that.
communicated, they were able to
spoke and
communicate
they did
like
it with
that?
each other. This is like but a small group.
Yeah.
And they say, let's try that. So
Yeah.
they start digging. They don't have they don't have wheels. They don't have wheelbarrows.
They haven't
They don't
invented
have-
that yet.
They don't.
Yeah.
No. They have. They carve out these blocks of granite or stone, and they move the granite or stone because they start doing these things with cotton fiber, making like bags, slings, blankets. They haul these granite blocks like Boy Scouts, 2 or 3 of them on each end of the blanket, and it's a stone in the middle. They haul this thing from the quarry to where you see that they built, and then they design and build rooms, a room for the family that suits them, that they can cook and live in this area, and then another room next to it, and then once they're done with this level, they move up like a step. So everybody has a view, and nobody's crowded. It's not like everybody on the one floor, right? It's terraced and terraced. And that is their city that eventually became, in the course of time, 3,000 people. No place on earth had that concentration as that. And then they said, well, it's wonderful to eat tomatoes all the time, but why don't we have some variety in our diet?
Yes.
They say, well, that's good, but where can you get fish? Where can you get protein? They do a little hunting, but not in the desert area, not too much. They said, down the coast, there's a village of people who live by fishing. What if we used our cotton, made the threads, ropes, made fishing nets of such an efficiency and quality that when we come into this down coastal village, they'll take our nets, use it for fishing, find they're harvesting more fish than they need, and give us the surplus as a trade-off.
And so they were
And
really communicating with
They
their
were
language.
communicating, and they go back and forth.
You got
And
all
correct-
that information from this book?
I got little information from this book, admittedly, but the BBC documentary of an hour that's on
okay.
YouTube.
It gave you that.
And here's the beautiful part. You said people had to think, what is a city? If I had the chance, my imagination, what would I make? What would the city be? And these people had to think it through, and they did. They said, well, we'll have a whole bunch of stuff agriculturally around the city, self-sufficient, and we'll grow cotton and we'll have stuff to eat, and we'll trade with these nice people down here with the fish, and get really all the ruins that the archaeologists that dug have found, bones of seal and walrus and shellfish and regular fish, all kinds of everything.
Wait, walruses?
Yeah, I don't know how. Apparently those were hauled up
Peru.
probably live and then killed because you don't want to eat a week-old walrus probably. But anyway, so here you have the people thinking what they'll do. Did they build walls around their city to protect themselves from the strangers? No, they didn't.
Why
Did
not?
they welcomed all into their community. They felt accurately.
Sort of
They
open
found
plan.
the
what they
open
call
borders.
Open
They're
plan. In housing.
How do you get a constant diversity and new ideas and people in the gene pool expand? That people were coming in from around. If you came to the city, you'd want to stay in the city. What? The warmth, the people, the concerts with the horns and stuff.
Wait a minute, Wayne. How can they have concerts if they don't even have? I mean, if They
Here's
haven't
what
even really built anything yet. I mean,
They've
they haven't
discovered-
invented the wheel.
Wait, you're losing me here.
Yeah.
No, it's
I
a good
know.
question. The archaeologists
Yeah.
have discovered that from deer bones and condor bones, which are those large birds,
Yeah.
they were able to make flutes, you know,
Oh,
those Indian music
Imagine
flutes,
that.
flutes and cornets, which are a little mellower kind of a sound.
Yeah.
And if you put a mass of them together, it's a sound that's never been heard before by people who are entertained by these concerts. And yeah,
So I'm just curious, which came first, your seeing the BBC documentary or finding this book?
the BBC. And then I
What was the name of
wanted
the
to-
documentary? Do you remember?
It's I think if you go Caral, Caral,
Okay.
it'll come up, and it's several things: Caral this, Caral that, Caral BBC documentary.
Well, it
I think it's the longest group one
sounds
hour, and it's an hour well spent if you want to, because it's not. Oh, I said
'Cause
it was recently discovered when we were born. There was an airplane going over the jungle. Remember that thing you talked
Oh,
about?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
With the thing where are the canals? They were really only looking for the canals. Where are the canals in the Andes? There must be some canals. Whoop, it showed the
Yes.
canals were around. Hey, wait a minute. This is all these canals around a cluster
Right.
of buildings. I wonder. So then they went there. They didn't have to clear away the jungle because there was no jungle to be
Yeah.
cleared away anymore. The canals were all dried up. So they dug underneath and found the what we're describing, the windowed rooms. All everybody had. There wasn't any magnificent palace for the pharaoh or chief, and everybody else lived in huts. There was the same building all around.
I
So
would
here you
love
are.
to-
So you remember, be Stone Age people walking through the jungle knowing nothing more, no books, no TV, no way to know, no internet, and you come across this site. It looks like Disneyland to you, right? If it's Cinderella's palace or something, and you walk in, and nobody's stopping you. There's no warriors and swords and at your throat or your ID or anything. Just go through, and then they say, "Welcome, welcome. Have some fish," or whatever it is. And you say, I'm going to stay here. This is better than what I have known in the
and they
jungle
did
with the
communicate.
Freddie Lance stuff. I mean, no Freddie Lance's here.
But Wayne, they did communicate.
Did you just
with
say
each
Freddie
other.
Lance?
Freddie Lance.
They did communicate. They had a speech. They communicated with each other.
They had to have had a
language?
working language
Yeah.
to which they developed in time, because who would have the word for a mound, a
know.
terrace mound,
Right.
until you have
yeah.
you create a terrace mound and all that stuff. Everywhere else, all the other cities on Earth, all the archaeologists didn't know it was a city. Couldn't believe it was a city until after we were born, when they really started digging. So only recently, you didn't grow up and I didn't grow up knowing about Caral, because
Right,
it wasn't known about.
Right.
Now it is, and people still had trouble. Archaeologists were looking for the carvings of warriors and spears, and they were looking for spear points. They were looking for arrowheads. They were looking for.
Yeah.
They didn't find any. There's no weapons. There's no war. There's no warrior
How did they
carvings. There's
kill
other
the-
carvings, but not warrior
The
carvings.
walruses, though.
Well,
Did you say?
they had this big rock that was the walrus killing rock.
Oh, all
I
right.
Yeah.
think it was special.
Well-
It said W on it for walrus. Anyhow, that's a story.
walrus rock.
That's some of the stories of Caral. Beyond that, there's a lot of mysteries about Caral.
Well, I'm in a complete
Caral.
state of stupefaction.
I know.
I mean, I have a lot of questions, Wayne. But
Well, it's such a big topic.
it's
you
a
know, you
very
can't-
big topic, and I think yes, we can
we
have
have
a long
more-
discussion about this.
It just raises so
I
many
think some
questions.
archaeologists would have our heads right
Yeah.
now, but
Well, the
Yeah.
archaeologists the archaeologists or historians are in controversy, because until this was discovered, which is within our lifetime, everybody had always had these other things, these other cities where there were warriors, pictures of gore, blood. The Egyptians,
They were hunters.
the hunters
Yeah,
and
yeah.
things with spears,
Yeah.
and they could find all kinds of weapons, a whole arsenal of weapons everywhere that they looked. This place, they couldn't find it. So now the person like me raises his hand and says, you know, the first people on earth who developed cities didn't believe in borders and walls. They welcomed people. They didn't have
Well, in
spears.
this
They
one
didn't
place.
kill people
In
in
this
this
one
one
place.
place. But it was a
Yes.
start. It was
Yeah.
the start of civilization. So
Yeah.
don't tell me that the...
I wonder what they look like. Do they have pictures?
Don't tell me that war equals civilization.
Yeah,
Or you
right.
need war to make the advances that...
know.
That's the controversy.
So that's
and
your
corral.
essential
That's
sort of
that's the reason
point. Yeah.
corral becomes such a fighting word.
Interesting.
Yes, you asked the question.
Well, I was just going to say, did they have skulls? Did they find skulls so they know what they look like? Were they big? What did they look like?
It's such a poignant story, and I'll conclude with it because we only have 2 minutes. They discovered a remains that hadn't yet disappeared in the desert like it sometimes would, of a bag, a cotton bag that was coverage or sack, a shroud, in which a small 5-month-old child was buried and kept near to the house and sort of under the floor. It was like a bump in the floor. So they obviously treasured, preserved this little child.
Yeah.
Inside were little beads or something, little toys like the kid might like to play with. And no part of the body was injured. It wasn't because they sacrificed them or anything like that.
Oh.
So here's the idea. They really cared about their children, as best we can understand.
Yes, yes.
From evidence like
yeah.
that. Is that the question you asked?
Well,
Whether they found a
I just
skull?
wondered what they looked
They
like. Were
didn't
they
find
tall?
it-
Were
they
they
didn't find-
tall? Were they stooped? I mean, could they tell?
I have
Well,
no
what they look
I
like, were
cannot
they-
tell you that. I don't
Were
know.
they covered in hair like some
I
of the
don't-
Oy
early?
vey.
No.
No, you know, primitive man. You see the pictures of primitive man covered in hair.
I don't know. They discovered writing because the strings.
Tick,
I know it's coming.
tick.
It's coming. Strings that like make a band and then have strings fall. The strings with knots.
Oh,
the knots
they
are
keep-
like letters.
they keep-
That's what they invented
Keep 'em.
writing,
It's
and
like-
therefore they
they call people-
invented
yeah.
books. But they were in the form of these
Right,
cotton
very
strings.
complicated
So anyway,
knotting
believe
system.
me,
Yep.
there's
So
more
they
to
were
be-
there for 100 years? How many years?
1,000 years.
Oh.
And they lasted 1,000 years. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, oh, yeah.
going on almost to the end of the program to tell
Yes,
people
that's
that
right.
we'll be...
We don't have a
we'll
chance
be-
to sing our
send
goodbye
in
song.
your- Send in your recommendations. Let us
Yes.
know and what you liked
you'd
about...
like us to
and if
talk
this,
about.
If this sock talk by the Frugal Fin
Oh,
works,
yes, the
you tell us that too.
shipper
Thank you.
sock.
See you next time.
Phew.
Bye-bye.
Tuolla Lontoossa Jennin mä kohtasin. Halo Vepi, oho. Hän on neidosten joukossa kaunihin. Halo Vepi, oho. Suukon kirsikka silmät niin mustat kuin yö. Ja ne loisti kuin tuikkiva tähti.